How much more careful would you be with your thoughts and actions if you knew that everything that you did, thought about, saw, experienced was going to be passed on to your children through your DNA? In this book, The Holographic Universe, they talk about people who, when placed under hypnosis, are able to recount things that happened to their ancestors that they should have no earthly knowledge of. For an example, this one woman was able to tell about a memory that happened to her mother with so much detail that it freaked the mom out, because the mom was like, well, I was only like 3 or 4 at the time and I never told anybody about that. It's a little scary, but it's also kind of cool when you think about how much knowledge you can have locked away inside of you. If only you knew how, or if only we knew how to access that, what kind of world would we be living in? We had to babysit last night. And in our time babysitting, some things happen. Braylon kind of fell out of his crib and hit his head. And he also has some milk and some oatmeal spilled on him. Now, he's only 6 months, so consciously he's not going to remember that. But, when you go through that death experience and your life flashes above your eyes, he's going to be like, yo, these motherfuckers really let me fall out my little car seat. He's going to remember that. He may even have like a subconscious fear of car seats because of that. But let's hope that's not the case. This is from the chapter Time Out of Mind. As with so many of the discoveries we have looked at, the idea that some deeply unconscious and even spiritual part of us can reach across the boundaries of time and is responsible for our destiny can also be found in many shamanic traditions and other sources. According to the Batak people of Indonesia, everything a person experiences is determined by his or her soul, or tondi, which reincarnates from one body to the next and is a medium capable of reproducing not only the behavior, but the physical attributes of the person's former self. The Obiwe Indians also believe the person's life is scripted by an invisible spirit or soul and is laid out in a manner that promotes growth and development. If a person dies without completing all the lessons they need to learn, their spirit body returns and is reborn in another physical body. So it's like they say, Earth is a school, and either you're going to learn the lessons in this lifetime or you're going to come back and have another lifetime to do it again. And it may not always be such a good thing to keep coming back down here. Now, how long is like, yo, aren't you ready to graduate? When does it become like a problem? Like, dang, you back in school, you repeating the same grade over again? But if you have all of eternity to exist, why not chill down here for a while? The kahunas call this invisible aspect the amakua, or high self. It is the unconscious portion of a person that can see the parts of the future that are crystallized or set. It is also the part of us that is responsible for creating our destiny, but it is not alone in this process. Like many of the researchers mentioned in this book, the kahunas believe that thoughts are things and are composed of a subtle energetic substance they call kinomiya, or shadowy body stuff. Hence, our hopes, fears, plans, worries, guilts, dreams, and imaginings do not vanish after leaving our mind, but are turned into thought forms, and these too become some of the rough strands from which the higher self weaves our future. Most people are not in charge of their own thoughts, said the kahunas, and constantly bombard their high self with an uncontrolled and contradictory mix of plans, wishes, and fears. This confuses the higher self and is why most people's lives appear to be equally haphazard and uncontrolled. Powerful kahunas who were in open communication with the high selves were said to be able to help a person remake his or her future. Similarly, it is considered extremely important that people take time out at frequent intervals to think about their lives and visualize in concrete terms what they wish to happen to themselves. By doing this, the kahunas asserted that people can more consciously control the events that befall them and make their own future. That imagination that you have is powerful. And I think we need to spend more time with our imagination, imagining just the type of future that we want to have or type of reality that we want to exist in. Because if you don't do it, somebody's going to do it for you, whether you're conscious of it or not. Like you have people out here who live for their parents, like their parents are living vicariously through them. So they spend their whole lives just doing what their parents tell them to do or what they say they should do. And in the end, they wind up being bitter because it was like, well, this isn't really what I wanted, but this is what I got because I never took control of my life. I guess it's a scary thing having to grab life by the horns and do your own thing. Because then you're responsible for what happens to you in that life. I guess it's easier to say, well, I followed the rules, I did everything they said I was supposed to do, and it just didn't work out. You can put that blame on somebody else. Like, I still think it's weird when people get in front of computers and talk to themselves for hours on end. But that's the world we live in right now. That's the new norm. Like, we socialize through a computer most times, where it's even weird to get around people and know how to interact. Here's an interesting passage. Another psychological phenomenon that bears several earmarks of the implicate is multiple personality disorder, or MPD. MPD is a bizarre syndrome in which two or more distinct personalities inhabit a single body. Victims of the disorder, or multiples, often have no awareness of their condition. They do not realize that control of their body is being passed back and forth between different personalities, and instead feel that they are suffering from some kind of amnesia, confusion, or blackout spells. That's exactly what was happening to Billy Milligan. He with one personality would meet somebody, and then the next day that same person would come by and be speaking to him, and he act like, well, I don't know you, because he was speaking to somebody else. Like, he truly thought he was going crazy. And what's sad about a lot of people with multiple personality disorder is that it's caused by some sort of trauma. For Billy, his stepfather was taking him out to a farm and molesting and raping him. And because of that, he developed a personality to deal with that situation so he wouldn't have to. And then more personalities started kicking in because of that. Trauma, that's how you program the subconscious mind, through trauma, symbology, and repetition. So like the things that you see repeated constantly, like if you keep telling the child that they're dumb, that they're bad, they're going to wind up being dumb and bad because you repeated that to them so often. Things that happen to you that are traumatic. You might not mess with dogs, so you got chased by a dog one time when you were little. You decided, I don't fuck with dogs. Wow. Most multiples average between 8 to 13 personalities, although so-called supermultiples may have more than 100 sub-personalities. One of the most telling statistics regarding multiples is that 97% of them, check this out. One of the most telling statistics regarding multiples is that 97% of them have had a history of severe childhood trauma, often in the form of monstrous psychological, physical, and sexual abuse. This has led many researchers to conclude that becoming a multiple is the psyche's way of coping with extraordinary and soul-crushing pain. By dividing up into one or more personalities, the psyche is able to parcel out the pain in a way and have several personalities bear what would be too much for just one personality to withstand. In this sense, becoming a multiple may be the ultimate example of what Bohm means by fragmentation. It is interesting to note that when the psyche fragments itself, it does not become a collection of broken and jagged shards, but a collection of smaller wholes, complete and self-sustaining with their own traits, motives, and desires. Although these wholes are not identical copies of the original personality, they are related to the dynamics of the original personality, and this in itself suggests that some kind of holographic process is involved. So those are just some things to think about. Hopefully that's enough to pique your curiosity where you want to go and read this for yourself. Because, it's another thing to have somebody tell you about it versus you having that experience for yourself. Now, sometimes it's enough for somebody just to tell you versus you got to go out and do it for yourself. Like to this day, when I touch something that's hot and I wasn't expecting it, I'll yell out hot. But my dad tells this story. When I was young, there was an iron in front of me. Excuse me. And he said, yo, don't touch that. That's hot. And I was like, hot? He's like, yeah, it's hot. I said, hot? He's like, yeah, it's hot. So then I reached out and touched it, said, hot. And I was like, oh, okay. That's what hot means. Like I wasn't getting the concept until I reached out and touched it for myself. So I guess life is like a balance of knowing when to like take somebody's word for it and knowing, all right, I need to go out and try this for myself. And there's some things that come instinctually to you that you just know to be true because you've experienced it before in a past life, and it's like there's something that'll speak to you. When I was in the third grade, we were at recess, and there was a group of guys and girls, and I walked up on the group, and the girls were leading the conversation, which was, strange in itself, but they were talking about oral sex. And I remember they had to like explain that to me, or what eating a girl out was. Now all the other guys in the group, they were like, ugh, that's nasty. But me, with my third grade mind, I was like, nah, you know what? That sounds like a really good idea. Like I had no idea what that was before then, but something in me knew. And that's powerful. I'm gonna leave you with that.